It's homecoming weekend at ACU, and a couple of old rivals are preparing to reunite.
ACU and West Texas A&M today with first place in the conference on the line. Your home for Wildcat football is right here, right now, on the Chris Thomsen Show.
Welcome to game day number 6 and another edition of the Chris Thomsen Show. I'm Grant Boone along with ACU senior Austin Gwynn and the head football coach at ACU, Chris Thomsen. Today, a homecoming matinee against an opponent who would like nothing more than to rain on ACU's parade, West Texas A&M. Coach, we've been doing homecomings around ACU for 90 years or so. What does a weekend like homecoming mean to you personally, and what, if anything, do you tell your team about a weekend like this?
Well, for me personally, just an opportunity to see some of the old players. For example, Dub Stocker being inducted into the Hall of Fame, Friday night. That just a great opportunity to see those people like that have meant so much to our program. But as far as with our players and our team, getting to tell some of those stories about the Dub Stockers and what they've done for our program and what they've meant to ACU, those are the opportunities that you want to take as a coach to tell the players what a great school this is and what a great tradition we do have.
And Coach, you've seen this team 8 times since you've started coaching at ACU. In every regular season matchup since 2005, either you guys or the Buffs have been ranked in the top 10 in the nation. And it always seems that this has playoff implications on the line. Every regular season, it seems that this game is of utter importance come playoff time. How important is a victory for you guys?
Well, a victory would be huge. I mean, it keeps you undefeated in the conference and gives you a win over a quality opponent in conference and region just for your playoff pairings. But either way the game goes, I mean, you still got to bounce back and play. There's still 4 games left after this one that can determine a lot. So you don't want to put everything on this game. You treat it just like the Eastern New Mexico game last week, and that's really how you have to look at it.
We'll talk about that Eastern New Mexico game, and a little bit later on we'll preview this ACU West Texas A&M matchup at homecoming. This is the Chris Thomsen Show. Stay with us. Make it 3 straight wins for ACU after last Saturday's 36-7 rout of Eastern New Mexico. Here's Austin with the video evidence.
All right, ACU Wildcats taking on the Greyhounds from Eastern New Mexico, making one of their longest road trips of the year down to a little tiny town called Portales. Eastern never really good, but came out strong in the first half. Here's quarterback Wesley Wood on an option run, and he finds his wide receiver Kaiser to get inside the 10. He's not done, though, as he will hit Michael Matthews in the corner of the end zone, but the Greyhounds up 7-0. You know the Cats are going to come back, though. Here's Mitchell Gale on a 3rd and long, finds Daryl Cantu Harkless. That gets them into Eastern territory, and he'll find Taylor Gabriel, who just sneaks in the corner of the end zone. There he is right there, and the refs give it to him. 7-7 tie. Cats aren't done, though. Gale finds Gibbs in the back of the end zone. 14-7 Cats, roommate to roommate there. Cats take their first lead of the game. Still not done, though, as Gale finds Gabriel, catches it at the 30, makes a nice little shimmy right there. He thinks he gets in. Ref says 1-inch line, though. Don't worry, Taylor. It's okay. Your buddy Daryl Richardson's going to take it in from the 1-yard line. Number 1 for 1 yard. Makes 21-7 Cats. It's halftime. They're all sitting on the field. Give them a Capri Sun and an orange slice, and then they're back out. Gale again to Daryl Cantu Harkless. This time that pass is worth 6 points to put the Cats up 27-7. Still not done, though. Everybody's getting in on the act. Here's Reggie Brown from 9 yards. That's pay dirt. That's 36-7, and that's the game. The Wildcats take this one. That makes them 4-1 this year, 3-0 in the conference.
36-7 the final, Coach. That's 6 straight wins for your team over Eastern. It's the 3rd week in a row your team has won by at least double digits. To me, it seemed like the most complete victory of the season. How did you see it?
I think it was. I mean, I think our offense continued to improve and pretty solid in the kicking game, but really think our defense took a big step against a great passing team with Eastern New Mexico. And we'd given up a lot of passing yards, so that was one thing we were concerned about going in. But I think our defense did a great job with the pressure up front, and then tightened down the coverage in the secondary. Did a real nice job in that game, real complete victory.
And Coach, in that first half, it looked like Mitchell may have had his best half of the entire year. 200 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. I know you like that. What did you see in that first half from Mitchell that maybe we haven't seen yet this year?
Well, just probably just consistency overall. I mean, in the first 4 games, he had some throws that just weren't all that great at times, uncharacteristic of him. But I thought he was really sharp, especially in the end cuts, the middle part of the field to Harkless and Ben, and some of those throws in the middle part of the field were just really sharp. And I think he's worked hard last couple of weeks to continue to refine his game. I think he's playing really good right now.
Coach, a couple of numbers jumped out at me. You held Eastern to its fewest points in a game since 2007. For the 3rd straight year, you hold them to fewer than 300 yards of total offense. Incredibly, they've only had 3 games in the last 3 years in which they haven't had at least 300 total yards, and all 3 were against your team. You mentioned it earlier. You gave up better than 800 yards total combined passing yards in the previous 2 games, although both were wins. So was it a scheme change? Was it just better execution? How did your pass defense improve so much from the previous 2 weeks to last week?
Well, I think our defensive coaches came up with a great plan and adjusted a little bit from what we had been doing, playing more zone coverage in those previous couple of games, and allowed our players to tighten down a little bit more man coverage against Eastern New Mexico. And it's kind of what we planned all along, to do that, to try to get some more work in the zone coverage part of the game early in the season. But I think our coaches on that side came up with a great plan, and the players obviously did a really good job of executing. We challenged them Saturday morning before the game to really tighten down, to play aggressive, and they did that, and I think that was a big step. We'll need that as we go on throughout the season.
And Coach, on special teams, again, we saw Taylor Gabriel return a punt for a touchdown. Now, it did get called back because of a penalty, but it doesn't make the return any less impressive.
That's right.
He probably ran for over 100 yards back and forth on the sidelines until he found the end zone. And he's really starting to look like a special player for you guys.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in the passing game, I think Mitchell's really depends on him, and they've earned each other's trust there in terms of the continuity. They played some together last year, and Taylor did some good things, but he's really started to step up as a key guy. And you got to really watch him in a punt return game. He's pretty dangerous. Every time he touches it, you just kind of hold your breath. You don't know what's going to happen.
You know, you had a couple of years there where you were really just asking guys like Johnny Knox to not fumble a punt, because you knew you could score from anywhere back then. You were averaging 50 points a game. Now you're asking more of those guys, and they're delivering. Some names that I called from the booth on Saturday that I hadn't called a lot of before made significant contributions for the first time. I'm talking about especially guys on defense like Colby Rowe and Camden Kennedy, Justin Stevens, a redshirt freshman who made the only takeaway of the game. That was an interception that really kind of gave your team a little bit of separation. And then Chris Jones, a backup linebacker, 5'11", 205. You put him on D-line, and he has a sack, a quarterback hurry, 5 tackles. What do you want the result to be from those guys getting significant minutes early in a game? This was not when you had already put the game away. You got them in early. What do you want that to result in specifically with those guys?
Well, you need quality reps from those guys. I mean, guys like Ashton and Donald and, some of the guys, Baggs, and some of those guys, they can't take every snap in a game. And those are the more experienced players that we have. And you want those guys out there every snap as a coach because of their experience and what you know they can do. But obviously those guys can't take every snap. So you got to have some guys like that step up. And when they do get a chance to make plays, you want to see them get a sack like Chris did. That was huge in that game. And what Stevens did, and that was the breaking point in that game. It was still a 2-score game, and he gets the interception, which we convert into a touchdown. You want to see guys go in there and make plays, not just go in there and fill some time till the other guys can get back. So all those guys that you mentioned are playing big roles on special teams, and then coming in and filling some roles on defense.
Definitely a big 36-7 win for the Wildcats, and you did survive all those oddities that Eastern New Mexico had to offer. And we'll actually take a closer look at those oddities. Here's Taylor Langston.
We are here at Blackwater Draw at Greyhound Stadium. There's quite a bit of mystique that's surrounding the field right now as we are on Indian burial ground. From the flies to the wind, it kind of varies, but something that always remains is the grass. There's about 2-inch tall grass that they're playing on. This is the only field in the Lone Star Conference that doesn't play on turf. So we'll talk to the players and see if that affects them in today's game.
Man, there's a lot of stuff we talked about with Blackwater Draw about the whole Indian burial ground deals, and it's out in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And grass is a little different than the turf that we normally play on and all, but ultimately it comes down to taking care of business.
For pregame, I came out here in 2 different shoes, try to see which pair of shoes that I wanted to wear. So yeah, it was really difficult. Before the game, my coach was telling us consistently, tape your ankles, and I hate taping my ankles, so I had to for this game.
Well, you heard it from the players. It didn't have quite the effect that the Greyhounds would have hoped as ACU came away with a 36-7 win against the Greyhounds today. They'll be home next weekend for the homecoming game against West Texas A&M. For the JMC Network, I'm Taylor Langston.
Thanks, Taylor. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the ACU-WT rivalry that'll happen later today on the Chris Thomsen Show. Stick with us. Welcome back on set at the Chris Thomsen Show. Football's not the only ACU team making some headlines. With the JMC Network Sportscast, here's Kristen Goodspeed and Taylor Langston.
Thanks, Austin. The Wildcat soccer team continued their spectacular season, defeating Midwestern State University last Wednesday 1-0. The team then turned around and shut out Eastern New Mexico University 1-0 last Friday. However, the Wildcats game against West Texas A&M was postponed on Sunday due to rain. The game against the Lady Buffs would have been the Wildcats' 5th match in 9 days, so I bet the postponement was actually a relief to the team. The game against West Texas will now be played Sunday, October 30th. After the wins, the Cats jumped to number 2 in the nation with a 10-0-1 record, their highest ranking ever.
ACU volleyball defeated the Aggies of Cameron University last weekend for the 8th time in a row. The Cats traveled to Oklahoma to bring back a conference win, making their conference record 5-4, tied for 4th with Texas women's. Neely Borger capped the win in the 4th set with the game-winning serve and finished the night with 12 total kills and 6 blocks. The women face Tarleton today at 2 o'clock in Stephenville for the next round of conference play.
Cross country has been busy on the track. Last Saturday, the men and women competed in the Midwestern State Cross Country Carnival and then headed to San Angelo for the Blue and Gold Classic on Tuesday. In Wichita Falls, Will Pike and Chloe Sissette each won individual championships. The men's team came in 2nd while the women were 3rd. Head coach Chris Woods said the Wildcats used the meet at Midwestern to not only run their first 10 and 6Ks of the season, but to also get a feel for the course. The regional conference will be held at Midwestern State and the Lone Star Conference Championships in San Angelo. So both meets were good practice for the Wildcats.
In Amarillo last week, and the men's golf team proved just why they deserve to be ranked 1st in the nation as they defeated West Texas A&M on their own course. The Wildcats got off to a quick 11-stroke lead in the 2nd round of the Ryan Palmer Foundation Invitational and finished the first day at 6 under par. The team continued their strong play on the 2nd day of the tournament and won by 18 strokes. Junior Alex Carpenter took home the individual win by 2 strokes, and this is his 2nd win of the year. For the JMC Network Sportscast, I'm Taylor Langston.
And I'm Kristen Goodspeed.
Thanks, ladies. Back here on the Chris Thomsen Show. And with me, I have senior defensive end Aston Whiteside. Aston, how are you?
All right.
This will be your 5th time playing West Texas A&M. I don't need to tell you how big the rivalry is. You know. What does it mean to you coming in on homecoming, your senior year, playing y'all's biggest rivals?
I mean, it's a game to look forward to. Play West Texas, like you say, 5 times, but 4 times in the regular season. It's just really you want to look at it just another game, but you really can't because it's West Texas. They're going to come out with all their tricks and whatnot. And we're just ready. We're ready for a good game.
And you played in that 93-68 classic game back in 2008. Bernard Scott over 400 yards of offense. Right. Johnny went off. Billy Malone went off. You were on the defensive side of things. Take a look back. What was that game like, being a part of that?
I mean, that was a crazy game. Almost got 100 points, as a matter of fact. Just a real exciting game. Like I say, West Texas, they're going to come with it all. They didn't give up. That was a high-scoring game for them also. The defense just had to stay in it, but lucky, the offense put up 93 points and got the victory.
And last year, wasn't nearly as many points put up, but nonetheless a huge game. ACU was down 14 points right at the end of the third quarter, ended up winning by 7. Take a look back at that game. You guys had to hold them in the fourth quarter, your defense.
Right, that was a good defensive game for ACU. I think we just put a lot of pressure on them up front and made the quarterback make a few mistakes, and the offense, they were very productive. Helped us out a little bit. I mean, that was a good game also.
And now let's take a look at this year. You've already watched some tape on WT. They've put up 40 points, I think, 3 times this year, at least 43 times. Their defense is also good, but since you're on the defensive side of the ball, we'll take a look at their offense. They've got a new quarterback this year. What have you seen from looking at the tape?
Of this year, West Texas, they're a little similar. They run a lot of screens and whatnot, but this year they're trying to do a lot of things different. They use a tight end more often than they usually do, and the offensive line coach from last year, he's now the offensive coordinator. The head offensive coordinator. So they're looking to run the ball more than usual. They're still going to pass it, but they're looking to run a little bit more.
And we've done a pretty good job this year of getting pressure on the quarterback. How big will that be this week?
I mean, getting pressure on the quarterback is going to be huge. Our coach, Coach Johns, has done a great job as far as making schemes and whatnot, so we can get after the quarterback this year. So it's going to be a good game.
Absolutely, and let's hope that we can break the trend of WT beating ACU on homecoming. It's happened the last 2 times. Let's hope this time ACU can get a victory. With a little bit of closer look at the ACU-WT rivalry, here's Kristen Goodspeed.
West Texas and Abilene Christian, it's a pretty big rivalry. Just 2 great teams, year in and year out, going to have elite players. Just like you look over the past couple years, you got NFL-type players on each team with Johnny Knox, Bernard Scott, Edmund Gates. You got Charlie Martin, Keith Noel for West Texas, and even Keith Fleming. Some great players that came through both programs, and just keep that rivalry going. It's been great.
When you talk about the rivalry, it's like any other game this week. But when you play as somebody that is as good as they are, like the Lone Star Conference South, but West Texas in particular, it brings out the best in your guys. So,
it's kind of like when we go up to Kimbrough to play, it's like we get pumped, and when we are at home, it's like they get pumped to come to Abilene to play us. And it's kind of like, all right, it's going to be a big crowd at both stadiums. You feel like, all right, we got home field advantage, but over the last couple of years, it hasn't been that way with both teams winning at each other's home field. But hopefully it'll be a change of scenery and we can get that win this year. Like I say, they'll come in pumped, ready to play. We just got to match their intensity, and our guys have worked hard all week. So we just got to keep it up and stay focused and just not get too overhyped and not try to win pregame and just stay calm, and we'll be okay. We'll be okay.
Thanks, Kristen. When we come back on the Chris Thomsen Show, we'll get Coach T back up here to talk more ACU-WT. Hang tight.
Welcome back to the Chris Thomsen Show. Let's take a look at the Lone Star Conference standings. You'll see that 2 of the 3 unbeaten teams in the conference meet today when ACU hosts West Texas A&M. Coach, the other team, Midwestern State, continues to roll 44-13 last week against Tarleton State. The Mustangs are number 3 in the nation with better than 300 rushing yards per game. Coach Maskell has them rolling up there in Wichita Falls.
Yeah, he's got a big offensive line. We saw those guys at Cowboy Stadium. They've got a left tackle that's a potential draft pick and a couple other really big guys and some great backs. So they're running the ball well.
Think they can draft him maybe before we play them next Saturday? We can keep
so.
our fingers crossed there. WT with a big win as they come in here. They knocked off Angelo State, as Austin pointed out earlier, nearly a shutout of the Rams last week. And Incarnate Word, 2-2 in the Lone Star Conference in their second season in the LSC. And on the schedule today, interesting, Eastern New Mexico in a Gang Green game goes up to Maryville, Missouri, and will take on Northwest Missouri State out of conference at Bearcat Stadium. Okay, Coach, let's turn our attention to today's game. ACU hosting West Texas A&M, the 45th renewal of this rivalry. It's a rivalry that has intensified over the last 6 years since you and Coach Don Carthel got to your respective posts in 2005. The series really can't be any closer. Each team has won 4 times. The total points scored very close with a slight edge to your team. And then there's this odd tendency, which Austin mentioned earlier. The road team has won each time in the regular season since you and Coach Carthel got to your respective coaching positions. Any idea why that's the case?
I don't really know. I just know we need to change that today.
Yeah,
that's
this
a
would be a
main,
good time to
that's-
start.
Yeah, it's a be a good time to get that trend reversed, and I'm not really sure why that is. I don't know if players feel more pressure playing at home in front of their crowd, and
Homecoming, maybe people
maybe
coming
I don't
in.
know. And you go up to WT, and their guys may feel more pressure because it's such a big game always, and I really don't know. I can't explain that myth.
Yeah, well, at the very least, you have two teams who are always good. And so trying to beat any team 2 years in a row that's
Right.
always good maybe has something to do with it as well.
It is. I mean, Mitchell talked about it yesterday in one of his interviews. I mean, you get that many good players out on the field, and teams that that function well and execute at a high level. It's going to be close, and it's going to be hard fought.
WT smart enough not to schedule ACU for their homecoming. We keep doing it year after year. Let's talk about their defense. In the last 3 games, they've only allowed 3 total touchdowns. And like we said, they almost shut out Angelo last weekend. What's it going to take to break that defense?
Well, we've got to be able to run the ball, which is hard to do. They've got a really big defensive front. You go down there in pregame and look at those guys. They look like a Big 12 defensive line. I mean, they are big. One of them 6'5", 280. The other end is 6'3", 285, and then they got a nose guard that's 6'3" and 330, and then a bunch of other guys rolling in there that are big. So running the ball is not easy, but you have to establish some run game, which we were able to last year. And in the games that we've won, we've always found a way to run it, which helps the play action pass. You don't want to drop back pass a lot against these guys because they bring great pressure. So play action pass is a little bit better, and that's the biggest key. We've got to be able to run it and hit some play action pass and protect the football. And score some points in that way.
You've been running it very well, better than 160 yards on average the last 3 games. When I think of ACU and WT, I just think back to some of these instant classic games. The moment they end, they're going to be remembered for a long time. National television, you guys go up there, win 49-33. They get the overtime victory later that year, in fact, 30-27 in the playoffs, 93-68. Bernard for 400-plus yards total offense in the regular season of that year. How much does emotion factor in a game like this, no matter how you try to say it's just another game, 1 of 10 on the schedule? How much does emotion factor in, and how much do you want it to?
I mean, I think it plays a big role. You can definitely feel the difference, and not necessarily during the week of preparation, but as you get closer to the game, kids know, and most of that's generated by the media, TV and radio and people talking about it around campus, and they sense and feel that it's a little bit different. But the only thing for me, it makes it easier to motivate them. You don't have to talk about how important it is. They already know. But each game's important. Some of the other ones they don't perceive as quite being quite as important, but they are. You got to win them all, and so it'll be a good feel in the stadium. It's always a big crowd, when we're playing them, so that adds a little bit. And emotion will be a big part of it, but throughout a 3.5-hour game, emotion's going to subside, and you got to play football. So I think it does play a big role, but then in a way it can't. You got to execute and play.
Well, and that football begins 2 o'clock today. Lance Fleming and I will have the radio call on Mix 92.5 FM and online at acusports.com. Pregame show beginning at 1:30. Head on out to Shotwell for homecoming. For Austin Gwynn and for the coach Chris Thomsen, I'm Grant Boone. We'll see you out at the stadium and next week right here on The Chris Thomsen Show.